I almost said, I do, but I ran. You ever have one of those moments where you feel like you're trapped in a dream, but it's your real life? Like you want to scream, but all you can do is smile? That's where I was. Right there. Right before everything broke. The air inside the church smelled like roses, candles, perfume, like too many things fighting for attention. The music in the background floated like sugar, sweet and sticky. I stood in this tiny back room, practically glued to the floor in a dress that weighed more than all my doubts combined. I couldn't even move. I just stared. The girl in the mirror had wide brown eyes, trembling lips, flawless makeup, and a smile so fake it hurt to look at it. She looked perfect. She looked ready. She looked, not like me. Behind me, chaos buzzed. My mom was fixing the hem of my dress, cursing under her breath about a missing flower arrangement. My Aunt Dana argued with the cake guy over the phone. My cousin Lily tried to bobby pin my veil for the 10th time, making, "You got this," faces in the mirror. Riley whispered, leaning in, smelling like hairspray and vanilla. "You okay?" I blinked at my reflection. My throat felt too tight. "Yeah," I lied. "Just, nervous." She squeezed my hand, not buying it, but not pushing either. "That's why she's my best friend. Riley doesn't force you to talk, she just waits until you fall apart into her arms." "Breathe," she said. "This is your day." I wanted to scream. Whose day? It felt like everybody else's day. My parents' dream wedding. My friends' Pinterest boards come to life. My fiancé Chris's perfect wife fantasy. But not mine. I turned away from the mirror, pressing my palm hard against my chest, like maybe I could hold myself together for just a little bit longer. Then my dad walked in, dressed in his best black suit, a nervous grin on his face. His hands shook a little as he held out his arm to me. "Ready, baby girl?" I swallowed the lump in my throat. My feet moved toward him automatically. "I'm ready," I whispered. But I wasn't. Not even close. The walk. The music swelled. The heavy wooden doors creaked open. And just like that, I was stepping into a room full of hundreds of people, every single one of them turning to look at me. Phones rose into the air. Flashes popped like little fireworks. Somewhere in the haze of faces, I saw my mom dabbing her eyes with a tissue. I saw my grandma beaming, my little brother giving me a thumbs up. And then I saw him. Chris. Standing there at the altar, in his black tux, hair slicked back, that same confident grin that had once made my knees weak. He looked at me like he owned me. The closer I got, the heavier my dress felt. Like each step was another chain around my ankles. Another link in the life I was locking myself into. Chris reached out for my hand when I got to the front. His fingers closed around mine. Tight. Firm. Unyielding. "You look incredible," he whispered, smiling so big, so sure. I wanted to smile back. I tried. I swear I did. But my body knew something before my mind would admit it. My palms started to sweat. My knees wobbled. My heart pounded so loud, I barely heard the words coming from the pastor. He asked Chris if he would take me to be his wife. Chris said, "I do," without hesitation. Then he turned to me. "Ellie James," the pastor said, "do you take Christopher Miller to be your lawfully wedded husband?" I opened my mouth. Nothing. I tried again. A tiny breath escaped. A whisper. I can't." The silence was instant. Deafening. I felt the world tip sideways. I saw my mother's mouth drop open. I heard someone in the back gasp. Chris's smile froze. His hand tightened on mine. "Ellie," he hissed under his breath. I yanked my hand free. And I ran. I ran like hell. The moment my feet hit the aisle, it felt like the whole church gasped in one enormous breath. My dress tangled around my legs. I nearly tripped. Somewhere, someone called my name, maybe my mom, maybe Chris, but I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. All I knew was that I had to get away. I burst through the heavy oak doors, into the blinding sunlight. The air outside was so different, wild, sharp, real. It scraped against my skin, pulling me forward. My heels snapped against the stone steps. I ripped them off, barefoot now, dress hitched up awkwardly in my fists, running like some crazy fairy tale runaway. Cars honked. People shouted. A kid pointed and said, "Mommy, look." But I didn't care. I didn't care about the photographer trying to chase me down the sidewalk. I didn't care about the old ladies gasping into their church hats. I didn't care about the perfect image I was destroying. All I cared about was breathing. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't go back. I ran 2 blocks. 3. The big poofy skirt was catching the wind like a broken parachute. My hair was falling out of the perfect updo. The tiny crystal tiara slipped and crashed onto the pavement, but I didn't even look back. At some point, I found myself in an empty park. The same park where Chris proposed, kneeling down with a ring and $1 million smile that made me say yes before I even thought about it. I stumbled toward a bench and collapsed, gasping for air. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely pull my phone from the tiny silk purse hanging off my wrist. My screen lit up. 53 missed calls. I closed my eyes. Breathed. And for the first time all day, I felt alive. The phone buzzed in my hand, relentless, angry. Mom. Dad. Chris. Even Riley. Names kept flashing, vibrating, demanding. I tightened my fist around the phone so hard it hurt. Part of me wanted to hurl it into the fountain across the path. Part of me wanted to answer, apologize, beg forgiveness, crawl back. Instead, I forced myself to breathe. In. Out. The tears came then, messy and ugly, dragging mascara down my cheeks in black rivers. I hunched over, my dress swallowing me up, shoulders shaking as I cried into my hands. The weight of what I'd done crashed into me all at once. I humiliated Chris. I humiliated my family. I became the story they would all whisper about for years. Remember Ellie? The runaway bride? The shame was a living thing, crawling over my skin. I could already hear my mom's voice, shrill and panicked. Do you have any idea what you've done? And Chris, hurt and furious. You promised me forever. But deeper than the shame, deeper than the fear, there was something else. Relief. It pulsed in my chest like a second heartbeat. I wasn't trapped. I was free. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again, and this time, I answered. Ellie? Riley's voice crackled through the line, frantic and breathless. Where are you? Are you okay? I opened my mouth, but the words caught. A sob slipped out instead. Hey, she soothed. It's okay. Just tell me where you are. I looked around the empty park, the gray stone fountain, the lonely benches. I'm at Willow Creek Park, I whispered. By the fountain. Stay there, Riley said immediately. I'm coming to get you. Riley. No arguments. You need a friend right now. I'll be there in 10. The call ended. I clutched the phone to my chest, shaking, my heart bruised and raw. 10 minutes. I just had to hold on for 10 more minutes. When Riley's car pulled up, I almost didn't move. The passenger door flung open and she jumped out barefoot, her satin bridesmaid dress bunched in one hand. Ellie, she cried, racing to me, arms wide. I stood up, the dress heavy and crumpled around me, and collapsed into her arms. She held me tight, whispering, it's okay, like a broken record, while I sobbed against her shoulder. I must have looked insane, barefoot, streaked with dirt, makeup ruined. But Riley didn't even blink. She just wrapped me tighter, shielding me from the world. Let's get you out of here, she said. I climbed into her car, sinking into the seat, pulling the door shut like I was locking the whole world out. Riley didn't say anything at first. She just handed me a bottle of water and a box of tissues. We drove in silence. Past the church. Past the town square. Past everything I knew. Only when we were on the highway, heading toward her place, did she speak. You don't have to explain anything, she said softly. Not until you're ready. I turned my head to the window, watching the trees blur past, and whispered, I couldn't breathe in there. Riley nodded like she already knew. You did the bravest thing anyone could do, she said. You chose yourself. I let the words sink in. I chose myself. It sounded almost unbelievable. At her apartment, Riley helped me out of the dress. We fought the layers of tulle and satin, laughing a little between my tears. She tossed it onto the couch like it was just another piece of laundry. I stood there in a borrowed hoodie and sweatpants, my bare feet curling into her carpet. For the first time in months, I felt like a real person again. A broken one, sure. But a real one. We spent the whole night on Riley's couch, wrapped in blankets, sipping hot chocolate like we were little kids again. She let me talk when I needed to. Let me cry when I couldn't find the words. Let me sit in silence without filling it with awkward, empty noise. Outside, the world spun on, cars drove by, stars wheeled across the sky, but inside Riley's tiny apartment, time stopped. What are you gonna do? She asked eventually, her voice soft. I stared down at my hands, still trembling a little. I don't know, I said. Face everyone, I guess. The thought made my stomach twist into 1,000 knots. I pictured my mom's devastated face. My dad's disappointed eyes. Chris's anger. The shame rushed back, hot and thick. But somewhere under it, buried deep, was that flicker of relief. That tiny, stubborn flame. You don't have to explain yourself to anyone, Riley said fiercely. You don't owe anyone your life. Feels like I do, I muttered. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Not to me. Not to anyone who really loves you. I closed my eyes and let that sink in. Morning came, pale and gray. I borrowed a pair of Riley's jeans and a hoodie that swallowed me whole. She pulled my hair into a messy bun and pressed a warm cup of coffee into my hand. Whatever happens today, she said, I'm with you. I nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. We drove back into town. The streets felt different now, smaller, meaner somehow. Like they knew what I'd done. When we pulled up to my parents' house, my stomach dropped. Cars crowded the driveway. Voices floated from the backyard. The reception was still happening. My heart hammered against my ribs as I climbed out of the car. Every step toward the front door felt like walking a plank. I reached for the handle, then froze. You got this, Riley whispered. I nodded. One deep breath. And I walked inside. The room fell silent when they saw me. Dozens of faces turned, filled with shock, confusion, anger. My mom rushed forward, tears brimming. Ellie, baby, where? I'm okay, I said quickly, my voice shaking. I'm okay. Dad looked stern, arms folded across his chest. Chris stood in the corner, pale and stiff, a glass of champagne forgotten in his hand. I cleared my throat. I'm sorry, I said. I'm so sorry for how I did it. For hurting you all. A beat of silence. But I couldn't do it. I looked straight at Chris. I realized up there that I wasn't ready. That I might never be ready. And it wouldn't be fair to either of us to pretend. Chris's jaw tightened. You humiliated me, he said, voice low. I know, I whispered. And I'm sorry. Another pause. My mom sobbed quietly. Then, shockingly, my dad stepped forward. He put a hand on my shoulder, heavy and warm. You did what you had to do, he said gruffly. I blinked up at him, stunned. Better now than 10 years down the line, he added, squeezing my shoulder. I'm proud of you. The weight in my chest cracked a little, letting in the light. Chris shook his head and turned away. But it was okay. Because for the first time in forever, I hadn't chosen what was easy. I had chosen what was right. I had chosen myself. Later, when the sun dipped low and the guests trickled away, I sat on the back porch, wrapped in a borrowed blanket, watching the sky turn pink and gold. Riley sat beside me, sipping lemonade. "What's next for you?" she asked. I smiled faintly. I think I'm gonna find out who I am. Not Chris's wife. Not someone's daughter. Just Ellie. She grinned. Sounds like a pretty amazing girl to me. I let the evening air wash over me, cool and free. Somewhere deep inside, under the bruises and the fear and the guilt, something new was blooming. Hope. Maybe life wasn't about getting everything perfect. Maybe it was about being brave enough to choose the imperfect, messy, honest thing. Maybe it was about choosing yourself. And for the first time in a long, long time, I couldn't wait to see what would happen next.